So let's have that conversation, the all-important conversation. If you're not a landlord, you're a tenant, or you're just in the middle, land tenant. I don't think there's anything like that yet, pardon me. So let's talk about this. We know that housing is a major part of our everyday life. You either stay in a house, you work in a house, or you have to interface with the building from time to time. After you spend 60% of your income on food, the other, you have to break it down, transport, accommodation, and the rest. And this morning, we're diving into that conversation. So you maybe call your landlord or call your tenant to tune in right now for this one. We're joined on the show to walk through some of these issues that have come up with a view to finding resolutions and ways forward for this one by Barakat Odunuga Bakare. She's special advisor to the Lagos State Governor on housing. She's also overseeing that agency in charge of real estate. Good morning, welcome to the Morning Brief.
Good morning, Gade.
I like the way you're calm. I think we need calm mediators for issues between landlords and tenants. But speak to us. Lagos is a huge city. And for those who are maybe house hunting, those who have gotten a house already, or those who are trying to move, they know some of the headaches they've had to endure during that process. This is not to say we don't have wonderful people as tenants and landlords. I mean, we can go on and on about that, but I think majority have issues around this. So talk to us about, first, what you've had to handle as a special advisor and the person in charge of that agency in terms of landlord and tenant issues. Then we'll break it down to those nitty-gritties and how to resolve them.
Thank you very much, Kade. So what the Lagos State Real Estate Regulatory Authority, LERA, does is that it sensitizes and tries to regularize real estate practices in Lagos State. It was first a department from 2007 until it was promulgated into law and it upgraded to a full-fledged agency in 2022. So basically, the agency beforehand used to just register real estate transactions in Lagos State. So let's say you buy land, you have to register it. You rent a property, you have to register it so far as it's below the time limit of 5 years.
Right.
So the agency can get involved and be a mediator between yourself and the landlord, or also between potential tenants and also developers as well. And since with this administration has assumed office last year, we've been able to resolve well over 1,027 cases. We have about 8 cases at the court at the moment, and the recent one, the most recent one, was a case of one Mr. Kayode that was all over social media. And
why are you doing that? I'm Coyote as well. It's not me, obviously.
Obviously not you.
But I get the point.
Yes.
I just want to put it out
so
there.
Yes. So the man came. He was online everywhere. Some developer took monies from him, and he wasn't allocated his land, and the issue was flying for like about 3 years. And as soon as Mr. Governor picked it up on social media, he sent it to myself and the Honorable Commissioner for Housing as well too. And there we mediated between both parties, and I can tell you for sure that within 48 hours the issue was resolved.
Right.
And now the man has his he's been allocated his land, and he sent an appreciation to Mr. Governor.
Is
and
this
also
is this the person that was staying outside of the country?
Yes,
the one that
he was in Canada,
right,
saying he was going to commit suicide if he doesn't get help, and so we can't afford to lose a Lagosian.
Absolutely.
Every
and
life
that was
matter.
a major one.
Yes.
So it's not just landlord tenants. You deal with developer and
we deal with developer. We deal with anything land transactions.
Oh, fantastic.
Whatsoever at all.
So let's speak to first the landlord and tenant issues. Myriads of issues always come up. If it's not the skyrocketing rent, which I think is at the heart of this conversation. Perhaps you can speak to that skyrocketing rent. You just see rent being increased from time to time. I mean, there are great landlords who are understanding, but there are others who say, well, this is what I feed with anyway, so I just increase it to meet my own needs. There's also issues of agreement. Who is meant to do this? Who is meant to do that? And all of it. So what is maybe the most recurring issue for you between landlord and tenant, and what is the resolution that you've been able to come up with?
Well, the most recurring issues that we've had, that I would say, is this issue of skyrocketing rents, agents charging ridiculous amounts of money. And why they're able to do that is we have a tenancy law of 2011. The law captures who can do what and who cannot do what. but it was ambiguous and vague in regards to how much a landlord can charge a tenant, and also how much an agent can charge as well too during transactions. And the law is under review at the moment. So the section 37 of that law states that reasonable amount could be anything.
Really?
At that point when the law was being made, nobody envisioned that landlords were going to start inconveniencing tenants, or agents were going to come up with ridiculous amounts of money. Let's say you pay a rent of about 3 million naira. An agent can wake up tomorrow and say, I'm charging you 300,000 or 1 million naira for agency fees. Meanwhile, it should be stated boldly in black and white that this is how much you can charge.
What's the goal?
Yes.
What should be the charge?
The charge should not be more than, I don't know, maybe like 2-3% or so, thereabouts. Yes.
Wow.
I've never paid anything less
maximum.
than 20.
2-3% of the
total sum.
Yes. So we're trying to work on how we can put a specific amount on there so that we don't. The law is supposed to protect the tenants and also protect the landlords as well too. So why inconvenience one at the detriment of the other? It doesn't make any sense. So the law is at the House of Assembly at the moment. We're trying to review it and make sure that everything is spelled out in black and white. Whoever breaks the law, you have to face the wrath of the law.
Wow, well, that's a positive one, because I think I paid 10%, I paid 20%. This 3%. Bukola, over to you.
You will go and do testimony and Thanksgiving for that.
It's just my own thoughts.
Okay.
It should not be more than that. We see how they charge rents abroad and the rest of them. So there's a specific amount that you can charge. You can't charge more than that. Well, even if the rent is $1 billion or £1 billion, you cannot charge more than a certain amount of money. Why can it not apply here as well too? If it's
as commission, by the way.
Yes, as commission. Yes.
Okay. So what about damages that they insist on collecting before you take possession of
caution fee?
Yeah, and then there's also that what's the name of that charge again? There was also another charge that the agent collects.
Illegal?
That's his own. Are those charges legal under the tenancy law?
They are legal, but the problem is still that it doesn't have a stated amount.
Okay.
Those charges are legal because for every landlord that is letting his outhouse to a tenant, you should be able to charge damage fee. They do that everywhere in the world. So, but the outrageous thing that we Nigerians or Lagosians do is that we just wake up and say, this is how much we want to charge. And there's nothing anybody can do about it. So the new tenancy laws that will be reviewed would state that this is how much you can charge for damages, this is how much you can charge for agreements, for this is how much you can charge for agents. It will state specifically how much you can charge for everything.
But even after paying that, tenants find that along the line when they take possession and they live in that house for 2-3 years, they're still the one bearing the responsibility for repair work in the house, and then the landlord jettisons that responsibility and doesn't do anything, but just shares it out to tenants. Is it right also under the law?
Well, it's not. It's not. The landlord, so far as you're paying your rent and you're paying your dues as at when due, the landlord should be able to take care of damages in the house because it's still his property by law. So you don't have sole right to the property just because you're renting it out. It is still the property of the landlord. So it should, if he charges you damage fees before you move into the property, you should be able to maintain the house for it to be habitable for you to live in.
So let's put a few facts on the fact sheet here. The fees are the rent.
Yes.
I want to state them so that in case I'm missing anything. The rent, the agency fee, the legal fee,
yes,
the caution or damages. That's all right?
Yes, basically, yes.
Okay, because these are the places where the issues are. Let's now move. I want you to put that at the back of your mind. We may come back to it because we're telling people CTV morning brief is how you can. I think a lot of people want to talk, both landlords and tenants. So hashtag CTV morning brief on X. Send it to us on WhatsApp. We'll be asking those questions to the special advisor to the governor on housing. Now, let's talk about responsibilities. You're a lawyer, so this works for you. Whose responsibility is what? Let's give a classic example. When the borehole gets bad, who fixes it?
The borehole. If you met the borehole in the house before you moved to the house, it's a responsibility of the landlord to fix the borehole.
What of the boreholes that always get bad? Because I've seen this kind of situation.
Well, it's the landlord's responsibility to fix that, but it doesn't stop the tenant from doing so if he wants to.
I have a quick follow-up to that. What if the borehole was constructed after you got to the house? Who bears responsibility for the maintenance?
Constructed
By who?
by who?
The tenant or the landlord?
The landlord,
Supposedly
yes.
it would be the landlord.
It's the landlord's responsibility to maintain it.
So let's aggregate it now. If a tenant finds that they have been cheated along the line, either as they took possession or even afterwards, perhaps they are being made to bear responsibility for the cost of damages in the house, can they report to the authority? And what are the guarantees? Because these things can be overwhelming. What are the guarantees that the authority will help them get redress?
Okay, thank you. That's a very fantastic way, because I was going to speak to it as well too. So in situations like that, they write a petition and send it to the Lagos State Real Estate Regulatory Authority, and then there's a department at the Ministry of Justice. It's called the Citizen Mediation Center. It's a department. So we forward such cases to that department for them to take charge of it, and then they call both the landlord and the tenant as well too for them to mediate between them. So it's either they go to the multi-door courthouse or they use ADR, and whatever resolutions they result to there is what is binding on both the landlord and the tenant. For example, if one party does not agree to what the resolution is, then they have a right to go to the High Court. But bear in mind that the ADR and the multi-court door system as well too is under the court systems. So if any resolution is reached there and they don't agree, the judgment at the High Court will be the same thing that was entered at the multi-door courthouse or the ADR. So it's still the same judgment, but it will just have more gravity because it will be a High Court judgment now. So they have a right to send in their petitions to my office, and then we send it to the Citizens Mediation Center at the Ministry of Justice.
I want to go back to the question I asked. I only posited one. So maybe you can walk us through, because the issue about whose responsibility is what is always a big issue. And it always happens when it's time to bring out money. And then the argument begins. So maybe an overview. Someone moves into a house, start living in the house. I don't want to know the kind of house. It could be a duplex, could be a flat or anything. What are the responsibilities of the landlord and what are the responsibilities of the tenant? Just a basic education.
Basic education would be, what are the terms of agreement before you sign tenancy agreement? If the terms of agreement before you sign, that's why it's good to read your tenancy agreements properly before you sign it. Normally, you're supposed to read everything properly, any type of document before you sign. If in the document it states that this is what the landlord is doing and this is what the tenant is doing, and you don't have any problem with it before signing it, then it should not be a problem afterwards. But if it was not part of this agreement that you signed initially before you moved into the property or you became the tenant, then it would be a problem. So different strokes for different folks. In House A, it might be that the landlord will be in charge of maintaining this, maintaining that, and then the tenant's responsibility is just for him to just make sure that the house is tidy. And for House B, it might be that the tenant takes charge of everything. Even if there's a light bulb that goes off, the tenant has to fix it. Then it depends on what your tenancy agreement states. So I think that's the basic answer.
So the tenancy agreement derives its legality from the law.
Yes.
Obviously, and you cannot write anything outside of the law thinking it's my own agreement in any case. So let's talk about
Tenancy laws 2011.
Exactly, and that's what you're seeking to amend.
Yes.
And I imagine it'll be ready this year.
We're working on it.
Okay, so this is to the State Assembly.
Yes.
We're hoping that this is sped up because some people's rents are about to expire, so just in time for that. But talk to us about this rent issue. I know we've talked about this a lot. Charging beyond 1 year, even though the law is said to be against that. And I heard the governor again speaking to that in that conversation last week, that the law is against that. But still we see people flouting that rule. And they'll tell you expressly, it's my property anyway. And for the tenants, they're thinking, is it worth it? Then I'll go to the government to report. And that's another point entirely. If it really makes sense for tenants to come report, would they get redress or they'll be kicked out of the house eventually and all of that? But about this matter, some say it appears on the mainland, it applies on the mainland, but not on the island. Looks like another law entirely is what's applicable on the island. So speak to us about that as well. Is the law only for mainland people, and for if you're in VI, Please don't bring that law here.
The 1-year tenancy rent applies everywhere in Lagos State. Everywhere.
So
the
that
whole
means
of Lagos
mainland
State.
and island.
Mainland, island.
Whether Victoria Island.
Victoria Island, Ikoyi, Lekki, Aja, everywhere.
But it appears that some people are above the law.
Well, nobody's above the law. The fact is that most people don't know that there is a place you can complain to when issues like that arises. And I'm happy that Mr. Governor spoke about it because he has the interest of people at heart and he wants everyone to be protected, most especially the tenants in Lagos State. So when you have issues of your landlord requesting for more than 1 year rent and you're not comfortable with it, you can write to the Lagos State Real Estate Regulatory Authority, and then we send your petitions to the Citizens Mediation Center. And then I can tell you for a fact that you would get the appropriate help that you need.
Sorry. Walk through this with me. So you've not gotten the house or the apartment or the building yet. It's just a start. So you approach the landlord, you're ready to pay, and you hear you have to pay at least 2-3 years. So there's no agreement here.
This is what the problem is. Most people, we Lagosians, sometimes we like flouting the law. And when one person tries to rent a property to you and then he's telling you, I want to collect 3 years rent or 2 years rent, and you say no, you will see a next man go and say, I can pay you 5 years rent. So it's not about you specifically, it's about everybody cooperating and trying to make sure that the law takes its full course. So if we all agree and we know that the law says that 1 year rent is what you can collect in Lagos State, if you can afford to pay 2 years and you're comfortable with it, then okay. But not you saying, okay, you want to pay 1 year rent and then no, you have to pay 2 years before you move into my house. If you don't want to do that, go to a next person and say, okay, I want your own property. 1 year rent is what I can afford, which is what the law says anyway.
So the point is, whichever way, you won't get that property, because if you report,
then you can report that property to us, and then we investigate and see why they're asking for 2 years rent.
So can you compel the landlord to give the person the property for 1 year?
We can mediate.
But what about the bureaucracy involved in ensuring that the complainant gets redress? Because the challenges of the individual are not waiting, but the bureaucracy involved takes a lot of time. And the individual would say that, look, I'd rather just move on with my life and go to a place where I can get a property that I can afford to pay for. And then, justice is not served. That's the big concern. So is there another way that the authority can ensure there's a central pool for landlords such that regulation can be more effective? What I would say is that the Lagos State Real Estate Regulatory Authority, as much as we regulate and try to sanitize or sensitize the real estate sector, we also register realtors, developers, whatnot. So we're in charge of making sure that everybody practicing real estate in Lagos State is registered and licensed to practice real estate in Lagos State. So tenants, landlords, potential landlords that are willing to rent out their properties will obviously use agents. These agents will be registered with the Lagos State Real Estate Regulatory Authority. So if they're registered with us and then you have issues like that, so it's easy for us to pinpoint who is doing what and where. So we can call that agent or call that homeowner and say, oh, this is what this person is saying, or what are you going to do about it? If not, you're going to get sent to the Ministry of Justice. And I can tell you that if a petition comes to my own office, I attend to all the files between 48 hours. No file stays on my table more than 48 hours.
Okay, that even brings me to the next question, because Lagos is almost 20 million people. If all of us come with your complaint, they will need 10 commissioners in that space alone. Yeah. So I'm saying that because don't you think it's time to decentralize so there can be more efficiency? Because if everything has to come to your office first, where is this office? Is there an email? Is there a phone number? What exactly? So that everybody watching and listening, because some people are already talking on X. Landlords are complaining, tenants are complaining. I'm going to ask those questions, but first, where is the office? Or if there's, in addition to the office, phone number, other details, maybe, I don't know.
The Lagos State Real Estate Regulatory Authority is located at Block 21, the first floor in Alausa. And we have a website as well, and also have a registration portal for agents, landlords, developers, brokers, whatnot, that practice real estate that want to have license to practice. So the website is lasrera@lagostate.gov.ng. LASRERA is
spelled
LASERERA. LASRERA at lagostate.gov.ng. And also we have our registration portal. It's lasrera. So the at comes off. So it's lasrera.lagostate.gov.ng for them to register.
Okay, just before I throw in the question from the people who are talking, does your agency cover complaints around tribalism and gender issues? A young girl wants to rent a house and we don't rent to young girls. Or, oh, you're Moibo, or you're Yoruba. You know, all of this, I'm sure you get those kind of complaints.
Yes,
do you cover that aspect as well?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Okay, so let me see.
I just want to take this comment, by the way.
No, just 1 minute though. I saw something, but it's just a comment. Sorry, Kayode. Sam Wasborn says, my tenant ran away with 2 years rent.
That's the comment.
Is that a comment?
Yeah, that is.
Something else. I just want you to. So it doesn't look like only tenants are talking. Landlords are also complaining. Kayode, you can go ahead.
Yeah, he said my tenant ran away with my 2 years rent. Says some tenants are very wicked. But let's, and some are really nice too, I should say. But let's go through the questions. You see this Alex Jambak, a realtor actually, saying, what is Lagos State doing about monthly renters against yearly as obtainable in advanced countries? And is asking, can I get a copy of a Lagos State tenancy law to adapt in proposal for my state? Brilliant. Actually, send us a message from Jos, Plateau State rather, Jos the capital. Monthly and then the law.
So the monthly rental scheme is in the works as well too. It almost came into effect last administration, but because the administration was packing up. So, but
the same administration.
Yes. So we're starting again, and hopefully before the end of the year we should have something in regards to the monthly rental, because they charge monthly everywhere else in the world, and it only eases and takes stress off the potential tenants as well too. So they work with what they're earning, and then when it comes into effect, it will be a certain percentage of what your salary is. So you can't be earning, let's say, 50,000 and then want to rent a property of like 2 million.
Cannot do passive.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. You know, and
then copy of the law.
There's a law.
Yes. I can finish.
Kyle, there's another one here, which is, I'm sure this, under the law, how often can landlords increase rent and at what percentage? There are landlords that want to increase every year, every 2 years. So particularly a landlord that does not bother once rent is collected as and when due, never fixes anything, just rent increase and collection. That from Surulere.
Well, that's what I was saying about the tenancy law being vague in some aspects. The law was supposed to state that this is when you can increase your rent, or this is when you can actually add more money to anything you want to collect from the tenant. So the new tenancy laws will capture all these things.
You need to hurry with these tenancy laws.
And is it going to pretty soon? Because people are on my neck as well. I get calls as at 3 a.m. in the morning sometimes. My landlord said he wants to increase the tenancy money to about 5 million. Like, when did you pay your rents? I paid like 5 months ago. But the guy just came today and just told me I have to increase my rent at the end of the year. Where do I get that from? And, you know, I really wish I could help and just jump in. But, you know, every agency or every parastatal has to be guided by a certain law. And if the law doesn't permit me to do, even being a lawyer, so I need to be more careful. Yeah. So if there's no law that states that this is what should be done, there's actually a limit to what. So
maybe you have to look at the camera and appeal to landlords to have conscience.
Please, I would like to plead.
What camera can she look at?
Which camera can I look at?
Let's look at this camera.
As you do that, please also talk about the arbitrary charges for houses built in 1980. And they're not en suite, they look very old.
We're totally out of time.
Yes, so I would like to plead with all landlords in Lagos State on behalf of Mr. Governor. He wants peace in Lagos and he wants everybody protected. Please, I am pleading. Quit increasing rents every 10 months or every 5 months at your own excitement. People need to be protected. We understand how the economy of the country is at the moment. Please, let's be kind to each other.
What's the message to tenants? Because tenants are running away with money.
Pay your landlord's rents, please. You had an agreement before you moved into the property. Please pay rents as at when due. Thank you.
I should just add that they're wonderful landlords, by the way. So maybe just to commend the wonderful
good
landlords who are doing
absolutely
great,
good ones.
and the wonderful tenants as well.
Yes.
Thank you for being a shining light. But there are a lot of
And there are
comments.
people who want to become landlords. There's a question
we're
here.
totally out of time, Bukola.
Okay.
We're totally out of time. We're totally out of time.
Okay, we have
People
to
want to know the procedure about owning a home in Lagos. But maybe you talk to that after the program for those of us here.
Again,
because we're out
your
of time.
handle and phone number.
Okay.
Because someone said it doesn't go through, so just repeat
No
that as we
problem.
wind down.
Okay, the handle is lasrera@lagosstate.gov.ng.
Okay.
And
Not your personal phone number.
No.
Of course.
I'll furnish you with the phone number.
Okay.
So it's that
So
you
we
have
can
like 3 phone
always
numbers.
So put it up. Okay.
Because someone was saying
Yes.
the numbers
Yes,
aren't
please.
going
We'll
through.
send it to them.
We'll get that
on
sorted
the
for you.
line.
But we'll have to thank you so much. We can never exhaust this landlord-tenant conversation. So thank you
No
for
problem.
helping us at least scratch the surface. And we hope to have you subsequently
Whenever
to talk
you
about the
need me,
law
I'm
and some
here.
other developments. Barakat Odunuga Bakari, Special Advisor to the Lagos State Governor on housing. And of course, she's also in charge of that agency, which is in charge of real estate, LASRERA. That's the Lagos State Real Estate Regulatory Authority. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
There you go. We'll go to break now. And when we return, I will talk about some movie, epic movie, actually. You love to see the movie. You love to see the characters. And we'll bring in one of them to you. Anikulapo. Yeah, that's the next conversation on The Morning Brief. Stay with us.